Please welcome our speaker tonight, Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol, an alcoholic.
Hi, Carol.
And I'd like to thank Josh for asking me to come and share my life with you. It's an honor. And congratulations to the chip people and to the wonderful birthday cake people. I have I have 29 years and 5 months sober. And I got that because I came to meetings to this room. It was my first meeting on a Wednesday night in this room. I came to meetings. I got a sponsor after 2 weeks. I did the steps. I did many, many inventories. I got commitments. In fact, I still have one to this day. I still go to meetings. I work with women. I sponsor beautiful, loving women. But now, in the beginning, that didn't make sense to me to help other people. I didn't think that was a good idea because I needed all the help I could get. And I was very nervous and very scared and very sick. And I just wanted to depend on other people. And I didn't think that helping other people was going to help me in any way. I've had wonderful, wonderful things happen to me in sobriety. And I've had very sad things happen to me in sobriety. And the first night that I came here, the man was at the podium, and he said, "It's the first drink that gets you drunk." And that made sense to me, because I always thought it was the fifth drink, or if I could regulate the liquor somehow, then it would be okay. I didn't know it was the first drink. So during these 29 years, I found it very necessary to drink, let me tell you. But I have not picked up that first drink and started the drunk going. So, when I got here, I was 37 years of age. I had no relationship with a higher power. I was absolutely terrified of the world and people in it, especially hippies. And I couldn't drive a car. I hadn't driven a car or been left alone for 22 years. I didn't know how to be a mother. My daughter's with me tonight. I didn't know how to be a mother. I just thought if the house was clean and the food was on the table, I was doing a good job. I was severely agoraphobic, and so my youngest daughter had to take care of me, and she was the mother and I was the child. And in sobriety, we had to reverse those roles, and that was a little difficult. I was thinking today, if my husband hadn't left me for that midget in Beverly Hills, I don't think I ever would have gotten sober, because I really, truly believed that I needed to drink to be with him. I thought that's the only reason I drank. He was my high school sweetheart right there. I shouldn't have married him. My high school sweetheart from Venice High School. We got married when we were 20. And I didn't understand why every once in a while he would go out till like 4 in the morning and then come home very happy. And I didn't know anything about life. Everything I learned from life was from TV. So I saw Lucy and Ricky's show. I knew every show by heart. I saw that when Ricky did something bad, Lucy didn't talk to him. So I wouldn't talk to Tommy if he went out till 4 in the morning. And then finally he confessed to me that the reason he went out, it was kind of like a werewolf syndrome. He had to go out on the full moon. So when there became a full moon, he would go out till 4 in the morning and then come home very happy. I didn't talk to him, but then I'm watching the moon to see if it's going to get full, because then he's going to go out again, and then I can't talk to him. And he was very critical, but I'm very critical. This is how I wake up in the morning. I wake up and I weigh myself immediately. Okay, right away, that's a negative, right? Right away, you're starting out on a negative note. Okay, weigh myself, go in the kitchen, get the coffee, figure out what I have to do. Then I call the bank. I'm not kidding, to see what my balance is. So that's another negative. Then I start to put myself down. One day I was walking into Save-Ons, and I'm listening to myself going, "You're a fat, useless nothing." And I thought, God, look how you're talking to yourself. I would never talk to another human being like I talk to myself. And I start right in, I don't know what that is, but through the program and through the day, I begin to talk to myself nicer. So when my husband put me down, I just jumped right on the bandwagon and put myself down. And that's how I became more and more afraid of the outside world, is that I just didn't feel like I belonged. In the 12 and 12, step 5, it says we're like actors that get on the stage and we don't know our parts. That's how I felt my whole life. I just didn't know. I didn't belong. I didn't know my part. I didn't know how to fit in. Alcohol saved my ass. I love to drink because it set me free, and it allowed me to be the person that I wanted to be. And I was funny, and people liked me, and my husband played the guitar, and I knew the words to all the songs, and I had wigs and costumes. So if you came to my house, I'd put on a little show for you. You didn't ask me, but we were like Lucy and Ricky, you know. And so he played the guitar, I sang and danced, and then the moon would get full. I mean, it just went on and on. Alcohol saved my life. When I was 29, he left me for another woman, not the midget, a tall woman. And that's when I started to drink daily. That's when alcohol ceased being a luxury and a party thing. That's when alcohol became medicine. That's when it became something that I needed to go to sleep, and I needed to calm my nerves down. And I had these 2 kids, and I just was I just didn't know what to do with life. And I couldn't drive a car, and I couldn't go anywhere. I truly thought that I would die, and they'd look down on the ground, they'd say, well, there she is, she never did anything. She was either too drunk or too afraid to live life. And so he couldn't pay the bills, so he came back, you know, and I don't know, the tall woman didn't like him or something. And he came back, and oh, I was so happy. I thought I have won the prize. He's not a good husband, but he's my husband, and I know him, and I know the routine, the moon, everything. I know all about everything. But now I'm drinking on a daily basis, and I'm resentful. I don't know I'm resentful, but I'm resentful, and I'm angry, but I don't have enough guts to tell anybody off. So what I do is I torture. What I really wanted to do is get a box about this size, squish him in it, and then open it up and go, and hurt him really bad, bring him to near death, and then close the lid and let him survive, and then open it again and do it again. Now when he goes out till 4 in the morning, I hide behind the door, and I jumped out. And I saw on TV that the Germans, they would hold their cigarette, like, you know, so I go, so where have you been? What have you been doing? And I would follow him around the house and question him. I gave him ideas. I said, you've been gone for so long, you had enough time to go to Palm Springs and come back and stay in the bar and do all that. And so I think I even gave him an idea. But then he'd go to bed and he'd be snoring, and that would piss me off. So I'd wake him up and put him on the couch. Now I'm in the bed. Now he's snoring. So that aggravated me. So I'd wake him up and bring him back in the bed. Then I told him, if you close your eyes, I'm going to slit your throat. I thought that was a good idea, you know. And all I can remember him saying all the time was, oh, Carol, what's wrong with you, you know. So my family thought something was wrong, and they sent me to a psychiatrist. And that works in your favor when you're torturing somebody, because after I went to the psychiatrist, they're not quite sure, is she or is she not wacko? So I would, if he came in the kitchen, I would get knives and just pretend I was sharpening them and just get a glazed look about my face, you know, just to scare him a little bit. One time, I did take one lesson in karate, and one time I was scrambling eggs, and I thought, let me try my karate out on him. And he was behind me, and I went, and I stabbed him in the stomach with the fork. There was no blood drawn, none. But he went to his mother, and then his mother called my mother, and so, you know what the psychiatrist told me? You should never drink. Because I told him, I said, you're giving me a lot of pills, and I'm drinking every night. He said, no, you shouldn't drink. And that's all. He never said you should go to AA or do anything like that. So now, after he returned, we stayed together another 8 miserable years. And one morning he woke up and he said to me, are you happy? Well, no. Are you? And he said no. And Oh, to add to the fear, he was the gardener where the Manson murders occurred. So he was the last one to see Sharon Tate alive. So I was pregnant with my daughter Sabrina when that occurred. So then I thought the Manson family and the hippies, and the hippies were after me. So that added to the fear. And I went out that night with some people from work drinking, and when I got home, he was supposed to be watching the girls, and I said, "Where is your dad?" And they said, "He moved out." Well, sure enough, he did. Everything was gone. The grass, the guitar, the blue robe, I hated that robe. Everything was gone, and he had moved out, and he didn't tell me. It's kind of like, can I have that bottle of water? I don't want to leave the mic, because you're recording. Now's the worst part. Worst part of the drinking. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to get drunk. I want to be a good mom. I want to cook dinner. I want to help the kids with their homework. But I'm into full-blown alcoholism by now. I thought I drank because of him. Now he's gone, and I'm still drinking. Every day I would say to myself, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm going to come home and be a good mom, eat dinner with the kids, and do the homework. And at 4 o'clock, I'd change my mind and say, okay, you can just have a couple glasses. I never had a couple glasses. Every night I was drunk. Every night I was falling around the house and bumping into things. I had blackouts, but if you're home alone watching TV, it was kind of interesting. And the next day I'd get up and I'd say, I'm not going to drink today. I'm going to be a good mom. And I was drunk again that night. Memorial Day 1981, I was drinking, started early in the morning. The kids went to the park with my brother-in-law, and we had like a beer fight, and I didn't know where the kids were. I wasn't watching them. They brought us home, and I wanted to have a party with the wigs and the costumes again, but there's no friends left in my life. So I asked some neighborhood kids to come over and dance a little bit. And I guess I'd wet my pants like I had before, and they'd put me to bed. And when I woke up that Monday morning, Memorial Day, 1981, I knew that I hadn't checked if my kids were in bed or in the house. I didn't know if the door was locked. I didn't know if I had lit the couch on fire like I had one other time. And I said, I can't do this anymore. But I was shaking so bad that day, I had to drink. Next day, it was Tuesday, and I went to work, and I said, I'm not going to drink. And that night at midnight, I was drunk again. I called some friends that I had heard had come to Alcoholics Anonymous and their lives had changed. And I called them and they said they'd pick me up the next day and take me to some place called the Marina Center on a Wednesday night. And I said, well, that sounded good that night. She said, drink if you have to. But I said, I can. I've drank everything. So in the morning, it didn't sound like a good idea to come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I didn't want to get sober. I just wanted to drink and not get drunk. Just show me how to do that. But they picked me up. They didn't call. They came and got me and brought me to this room, and I see you guys like I saw then. Bright, happy, clear eyes, nice dressed people, laughing, and you had the answer that nobody else had in my whole life. No doctor, no psychiatrist, nobody had ever given me the answer that maybe I could live a different life. And so I got a sponsor and I started working the steps. And I remember asking her, how do you get to go to coffee? I hear people say they go to coffee and have pie and hot fudge sundaes after the meetings. That's what we used to do. And she said, you got to start talking to people. I was terrified of men. I was terrified. If you had a band, a hippie band or something on your head, then I was out the door, scared to death of people. But I got a friend named Debbie, and she decided to have my sponsor be her sponsor, and I thought, well, that's a good idea, two people with the same sponsor. Well, it wasn't a good idea because she started bossing us around. She wanted us to go to women's meetings. We didn't like women, and she kept saying, you go to this meeting, you go to that meeting. Debbie drove, of course, and then we'd get in the car and talk bad about her. But we always did everything she said, and she'd say, I'm praying for newcomers for you guys. And I said, Diane, really, we don't have time to help other people. I want a man, Debbie wants money. We can't help other people, So finally, in the doctor's office, that I was working in, there was a lady, they told me had bad liver functions. So I called Debbie on the phone. I said, I got one. We're going to go pick her up. I know her address. I know everything about her. So we went to Santa Monica that night, picked her up. She toasted us with a glass of wine. We threw her in the back of the sports car. Debbie drove. I had to sit in the front, so we had to lay her out in the back. And we drove her up to the Palisades. She didn't like the meeting. She got mad, and she walked out. Now, we didn't know what to do. Should we go follow the newcomer or stay in the meeting? Because the sponsor will get mad if we don't stay in the meeting. We're not little kids. I mean, we're older women, and this is how we acted. And so Debbie says, you know what, I'm going to get the meanest woman in AA to go talk to our newcomer, straighten her out. So our newcomer insulted her. And then we put her back in the sports car, drove her home. I don't know if she wanted to get sober or not, but she was our newcomer, and we picked her up. We picked her up the next night. We kept picking up. We picked her sponsor. We picked one that we thought would be matched with her. We had a commitment at the 5 and dime, and we gave it to our newcomer so that she could have a commitment, so we could go to another meeting. So we did the best we could with her, and she did get sober. And she had a baby that we held when the baby was 24 hours. I was like a little sobriety boy, you know, and we were the aunties. My sponsor came over when I had about 3 years, and she said, you know, Carol, you need to stop depending on other people. You need to get in a car and drive and get independence. And I said, I can't do that. I'm too afraid. She said, no, you can't, but God can. And she wrote on a piece of paper that God does not create the spirit of fear. And she gave me 10 cents for the phone booth, and put me in the car, and I drove to Santa Monica and back that day for the first time in 22 years. And I was sobbing when I got back, because sobriety was more than enough for me. But I didn't know that I got to get independence and get to be free. I drove all day today. You know, what a miracle. And so that wasn't a fast learn to walk through fear. It took me 7 years to get up every morning and call somebody on the program and say, I'm leaving my house. If I don't make it to work, would you pick me up, please? And then sometimes I'd have to go back 4 times and start in again. But the need was greater than the fear, because I wanted to be free. I didn't want to be dependent on other people anymore. So I walked through that and learned to drive. Like I said, I always wanted to have a boyfriend. When I had about 7 years, I met a man in this room who had 16. And he invited me out on a date, and he brought me roses, and I went with him to speak, and he went with me to speak. And we played the scratcher every Sunday morning to get ice cream on the beach in Hawaii, because we were going to go to Hawaii in November. In October, he spoke at 26 and Broadway, and we came home, and he was having a little trouble breathing. So I called the paramedics, and I told Sabrina to call Debbie to meet me at St. John's Hospital. They took us in the ambulance, and I went outside to pray that he stay with me and that he live. And I felt an energy around me that said, I can't stay. It's not going to be the same. And when I went in, the doctor and nurse put me in a little room and said that he was dead. And I felt that somebody had pulled the rug out from under me, you know, that I had made it, whatever make it is, you know, I was there, and now I wasn't. And then that's when my friend Jeannie gave me a book, and in the book of Grief and Recovery, it said, if you're waiting for time to heal, time only passes. You need to get into action. And that's Alcoholics Anonymous, action. So I became secretary of the Venice High School meeting. I took dirty dancing lessons, and I started to sponsor more people, and I saw where that comes in. Because when I talked to some lady till 1, 2 in the morning, I wasn't thinking about my pain. I was hearing recovery, and I was hearing hope that I was giving to somebody else. So that's how I learned to work that. I truly believe that my relationship would be one with AA. and that I would never have another relationship like that again. But I did. In the doctor's office, this man had asked me out for 5 years, and I wouldn't go because he wasn't in the program, and I knew that I was too nuts. No regular person would understand me. But finally, I went to his house for dinner. He invited me to dinner. It was the worst dinner I've had in my entire life. And but he was a school teacher, and he was really nice. He taught history and special ed, and he liked kids, and I thought that was a good sign. So we started dating, and then a little while later I moved in. And then on November 29th, it was the day after Thanksgiving, we drove to Fresno. My brother's a Lutheran minister, and he married us in his living room. So Monday we celebrated 19 years of marriage. And thank you. And about 6 years ago at Christmas time, my husband got ill, and we had to go back. We went to St. John's, and he had the flesh-eating bacteria. And they operated on him and told me that his vital signs were failing. So naturally, I knew that this was happening to me again. And I didn't pray for God to change the circumstances of my life. I just prayed that he give me courage and show me how to go through this sober. And after being in a coma for a month, he recovered. He woke up on New Year's Day that year, and he said, "Where the fuck am I?" You know, and so we've had a good relationship. I got fired from the doctor's office. That's like having somebody dump you, you know. But when somebody dumps you, you can say to your girlfriend, "You know what? He was a piece of shit anyway, you know, it doesn't matter." But when they fire you, nobody's going to say that to you. It's very difficult to go through. But being fired got me to work in a school and got me to be a teaching assistant in special ed, and got the boys that I work with and the kids that I work with, they call Miss Carol the bomb. I think that's a good sign. I'm retired now, so I don't work, but I'm very busy with my children. Both my daughters are sober and Alcoholics Anonymous. I think that's because the home became an Alcoholics Anonymous home, and they saw how much this program did for me and my life. My daughter Sabrina is sober 22 years. She just got married to another sober man, and she's going to have my granddaughter in April. My oldest daughter, Amy, is sober 14 years, and she has my other two granddaughters. One is 20 and one is 10. You know, I never really went anywhere or did anything. I never took my kids to dinner or to buy a pair of shoes. Someone always had to take us. But because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I get to take my grandchildren places. We get to go to movies, and we get to go shopping, and we get to go out to eat. And you know, one of the most precious things that I own is a piece of luggage, because I never thought I'd see the world. And because of my husband's job, I've been to New York and Washington, D.C. and Hawaii and a lot of places that I only saw on TV. I remember the first time we ran to the Grand Canyon. We were holding hands. It was so beautiful. It's so amazing, this world and this country. I thought I'd only see these things on TV, you know. I learned in 29 years that you never fail until you stop trying. If you're in this room tonight and you're sober, you're a success. As long as we keep trying, no matter what it is. I learned that I need people in my life, but my dependency has to be on God. Because the human beings will fail you. I'll fail you. It's just the human condition. I learned that to be open and ready for change, because it's going to happen no matter what. I learned that humility, that to have humility is not to think less of myself, but to think of myself less. And I learned to be totally grateful for my life in this world, and that I don't have to anymore live in that deep, dark hole of alcoholism. Thank you.